Hi, I'm Harold Gutmann. I cover North Carolina for the Herald-Sun. I'm here with my colleague Steve Wiseman, who covers Duke. And welcome to Our Game, where we talk about our game in the state of North Carolina, which is, of course, college basketball. Last time we were here, we talked about Duke, North Carolina last week. It seemed like it was a memorable game at the time, but it's since been kind of overshadowed by two even more memorable games, maybe, that both of us were fortunate enough to be at. Duke-Syracuse on Saturday and North Carolina-NC State on Wednesday. Let's kind of go chronologically and start with Duke-Syracuse on Saturday. What were your impressions of that one?
Yeah, it was a big win for Duke to get revenge on the loss that they suffered up at the Carrier Dome. It was a different style of game. This was a slugfest, 66-60, instead of the 91-89 overtime shootout that we had. Both great games, just different styles. And it was big for Duke to win a game that way, to win one with defense, with strong rebounding. They got just enough offense, and they made the plays down the stretch. And yeah, maybe they got a break on the call at the end. They didn't get the break on the call when Rodney Hood thought he had a dunk to give them the lead in the Carrier Dome, so things kind of evened themselves out. And there was still time left for Syracuse to come back, but Jim Boeheim eliminated that opportunity.
Yeah.
So one of those things you can't believe what you're seeing when you watch it. But it was a big win for Duke. It solidified them as a top 10 team and a national championship contender if they can play like that in the tournament with that type of depth. They have a chance to go as far as they want.
Yeah, another unbelievable scene Wednesday night in Raleigh, where Marcus Page scored 31 points after halftime. T.J. Warren, ACC's leading scorer, showed why, scored 36. Went tit for tat the whole game. Page got the last shot with 0.9 seconds left, that layup to win it in overtime. Big takeaway from that. During the whole, now they've won 10 games in a row. During the previous 9 games, we talked about how different players have stepped up at different times. Whereas James Michael McAdoo had 20 against Pittsburgh, and then Kennedy Meeks had 20 against Florida State. Leslie McDonald had the 20 against Duke. There wasn't much of that on Wednesday night in Raleigh. J.V. Tokoto had a really strong game with 16, 10, and 5 assists, but he was cramping up at the end, couldn't really help. And you kind of saw back to earlier in the season where they really needed Marcus Page. You saw that in the first half when they scored 26 points and had 11 turnovers at halftime, when Marcus Page had one of his typical slow starts. And then you saw what this team could be when Marcus Page was acting like an ACC Player of the Year candidate.
Wow.
And everyone's going to talk about the points, which were really impressive. It was the first time in 8 years that they had 2 ACC opponents scored 35 plus, and that was Duke's J.J. Redick and Florida State's Al Thornton did it 8 years ago. But everyone's going to talk about the points, but really it was his controlling the offense. Like I mentioned, they had 11 turnovers at halftime. First possession in the second half, Leslie McDonald threw the ball away. Now they have 12, and after that, the remaining 24 minutes, they didn't turn the ball over.
Correct.
Which is good. And a lot of that obviously is Marcus Page as the primary ball handler. So it wasn't just the points; it was just directing the whole offense, leading the team. Like all the intangibles, he also brought to the table. So it was a really incredible game. Now Duke gets a welcome weekend off after their exhausting stretch before playing again against Wake Forest. What are you looking for in this upcoming week?
Yeah, I mean, Coach K said they want to have a chance to work on themselves. Yeah. They had 5 games in 11 days, so all they did was basically prepare for the next game. Sometimes it wasn't even a full practice because you just can't wear their legs out. Yeah. They were able to get through the stretch 4-1 with the only loss was over at Chapel Hill, so that's pretty good. And that they're taking some time off between now and next Wednesday when they go to Winston for the game with Wake, working on their own defense. Probably their offense attacking zones because we saw they had a problem with that at Chapel Hill, the 1-3-1. So it's just a good time for them to catch their breath and work on some things they need to shore up before the tournaments.
Yeah, North Carolina's got they're going at Virginia Tech on Saturday, home against Notre Dame on Monday. They need to just win one of those 2 games to clinch a top 4 seed and one of those coveted double byes in the ACC tournament. What I'm looking for is just for them to keep up the intensity and the focus that they've shown throughout this win streak. In the non-conference schedule, they had a big win. They beat Louisville, then they lose to UAB. They beat Kentucky, then they lose to Texas. You haven't seen that in the last month or two where they've been able to keep their focus, and you'd have to think as long as they do that, they shouldn't have much trouble this week. Heading into the rematch against Duke and Carolina, we'll certainly be here to talk about that before it happens. Thanks so much for watching Our Game.